Hello and welcome back to Buckets WNBA edition. I'm your host Jim Turvey. We're here to do some more team previews. We're going to do the Western Conference today. So I had to bring on my Westie bestie, my Western Conference knowledge supremacist. I don't know what title we're going with, but she's definitely, when I think West Coast, I think Danielle Alvari. So Danielle, how's it going? Thanks for coming on Buckets.
Good. I live on the West Coast. That's accurate. That's accurate.
It's the only person in my life I know on the West Coast. No, not really. But I feel like you have good West Coast knowledge. You had the UCLA connect. You're a West Coaster through and through.
I am. It's true. And I'm really excited that we have conferences to talk about. It used to feel like when there was just the 12 teams that it was like we could try to squeeze in all 12 teams. Now it's like we got to break it up because we're getting all these expansion teams.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys are, I would assume that Portland will be in the Western Conference. I guess Toronto's going to have to be Eastern, but then there's going to be like some skewed numbers there. Do we know the setup
tell
yet?
me why Minnesota is in the Western.
It never makes sense. Yeah, some of the ones that go back, like some of the baseball ones, especially back in the day, were like just fully nonsensical. But hopefully we can get ahead of that with the W. Danielle, we have to lead with this because I feel like I reference your old show all the time. I was like truly the biggest fan of the show of all time. I loved Win of the Week. We brought it over to Bet She Wins, where we had you would come on there. We stole the segment from you there. Can I put you on the spot? Can we do Win of the Week on Buckets? You have a Win of the Week for me here?
My win of the week is doing this. Getting
amazing.
to talk about the W, getting really excited for the season, getting to hang with my man Jim. So I'm really excited. What's your win of the week?
That's a great win of the week. I will say mine. This is clearly a win of the week, obviously, but I can't copy yours exactly. So I will say that this weekend, I'm excited. I'm going into the city. I'm going to do a little double dip. I'm going to go. There's an LPGA tournament in Jersey City, so I'm going to go see that in the morning, and then I'm going to go outside of Madison Square Garden with all the Bing Bong animals and at a bar and watch the Knicks. So it should be a fun little sports weekend there in the city. I'm pretty excited for that. So that'll be my future win of the week, I suppose. But let's dive into W. Let's get right into it. Before we get to the teams themselves, I feel like I'm having fun just asking everyone what they're most excited for, what they're looking for. What are your thoughts on the 2025 W season as we're only like a week out, which is crazy.
So crazy. I'm very excited for something that we left off on last season. The Lynx's loss in the finals. I'm excited for the Minnesota Lynx revenge tour.
Yes.
The Taylor Swift tours have ended. We need new content for the feed. It's time for the Lynx revenge tour. So I'm really excited for that. There's no, like, hell hath no fury, like a Cheryl Reeves torn. So I'm excited for that. WNBA All-Star Weekend also. Are we going to get a Caitlin Clark 3-point appearance? That kind of thing. Very excited. Also, just player specific, Clea Copper.
Yes.
Just like her biggest fan, and was in conversations last year for MVP despite being on a team that was so underperforming, and just one of my favorite players to watch. Kind of in a completely revamped new situation like a lot of these teams. So I'm really excited for Clea Copper, and really just watching the entire game grow because viewership is up, more games are being nationally broadcasted, and I just heard like Kelsey Plum was talking about playing in the Bay, and she was saying this is the loudest preseason game she's ever been at. So, I mean, that just tells you the energy is there.
I just had a friend move out to San Fran. I guess my other Westie bestie now.
I was going to say, hold on.
Is that loud? You can't have anyone else out here, Jim. And he sent me a picture, like right outside the city. It looks like they really did that. Like they did well by that stadium, the setup. It seems like they're really invested in like getting the community engaged. I have some takes here. We'll actually get to them before too long. I've got some takes on the Valkyries. Maybe not this year, but I think there's a really bright future there. So maybe let's use that to transition in. We've got 7 teams to talk through in the Western Conference. We'll probably go a tiny bit longer here. So we'll dive right in. I'm going to do this alphabetically. I think that makes the most sense. We'll kind of talk through each of these teams. I'm kind of do like a mini review of last season, who came in, who came out, coaching stuff, a little bit about the season as a whole, and then obviously we'll end with a win total because this is a betting show. So let's start with the Dallas Wings. So interesting place to start because I think that they're one of the more confusing teams year after year after year. So maybe it's a good way to level set of, confusion as we go into the season. But if we look at their 2024, kind of season interview, they were 9-31, second to worst record in the entire W. Pretty disappointing for, again, a roster that has talent. Enrique Agumbawale, one of the biggest names in the league, certainly one of the best scorers in the league, but they had like one of the worst defenses in league history. I feel if I remember right, all over some Dallas Wings overs early last season. Was that something you were on like pretty early in the season last year?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember you coming on Best You Wins. I think that was like one of the first of the last season where like Wings overs, get these now, get them while they're hot. Then in the offseason, they had a lot of movement. So they lost Satu Sabali, arguably the best player on the team. Lost Natasha Howard. But then incoming, they have Dejanay Carrington, Ty Harris, Nalissa Smith. A lot of different names, a lot of in and out, and then the rookie Paige Beckers, of course. So we've got a lot of new things here. We've got a new coach, a new front office. I don't know a ton about the coach. He was a defensive coordinator for the Sun and the Sparks. So, theoretically, like the defense should be better. You bring in a defensive type coach. You maybe make that a little bit more the focus of the front office. Kurt Miller, I gotta say, through one preseason game, we're talking one preseason game, but it didn't look a lot better. So my 10-word preview for 2025 was there's nowhere to go but up, right? So I don't know if you have a 10-word preview or if you just have a preview on the Wings in general, but talk to me about your thoughts on the Wings this season.
I do. My 10-word preview, just too long, didn't read what I'm about to say. Personalities will clash, overs will cash, Enrique will shoot it. That's what I think about this.
Look at that. So you came with some heat. I didn't know if you had them in your own doc. What's that?
I wanted to surprise you.
Oh, I love it. That was a great start. I don't know if they're all that good, but if they're all that,
I spent too much time on them, Jim. I spent too much time.
I love it. I love it. This is why we have you on, the Westy Bestie. So let's get into the season itself. Now that we've got our 10 words out. Their top 8 again is really interesting. The rotation of this team, Paige, Enrique, Maddie Siegrist, I think is a really interesting player in terms of, if you're looking at most improved player, 6th player of the year. Nalissa Smith has talent. Dejanay Carrington won the most improved player of the year last year. Incredible talent. Ty Harris really showed some abilities last year. And, kind of Paige brings the room together. Like, this is clearly a winning player coming to a team that hasn't done a lot of winning. Do you have any hopes for them to turn around? It sounds like maybe a little bit skeptical still.
This is the team on the Western Conference, at least, that I'm the least excited about. You're talking about this talent that these teams have. And it's almost like it's a hot grab bag. Like, wow, there are lots of different pills in here, but if you take them all at the time, you're just flat. Like, I don't know if they go together. I don't know if you can take all of these really strong personalities together at the same time, or if this is just going to be dire. And I also think, kind of harkening back to what you were talking about with the Valkyries, I don't know if the general management is going to even let Kurt do his job. Is Wings president Greg Bibb going to get in the way of any of this? So it has to be a little bit about the franchise itself as well. And so I don't know that Dallas is set up to do this well, like the way that the Valkyries are coming into this and kind of doing it the right way. That said, like you said, defense, huge issue for them, which is why we love those overs. Even though the overs were crazy, the numbers were crazy. They were so high and we were still being able to cash them. They weren't high enough. But they bring in Kurt Miller, who we know is like a big defensive mind here, and then Chris Koklanes from a defensive background as well. So they are very clearly trying to adjust problems that they have right now. I just feel that sounds bad. I feel bad for Paige Beckers. I'm not excited to watch her in this team. This is not. I would have been way more excited if she was joining the Sparks. I mean, Rakia and Cam, that would have just been absolutely electric. And instead, this is what we're getting, and I just kind of feel like it's gonna be like a wah kind of season for Dallas. So I think that we'll have opportunities as the season progresses for individual betting props here, and even that, perhaps those totals early again. But for me, it's under 18.5 on this win total for Dallas. That's where I land.
So that is where the win totals. Yeah. That's where the win totals at, which is a pretty notable jump from last year. Now, Paige is in, but Satu Sabali, who clearly at this point in her career is better than Paige Beckers. Now, she didn't play all of last season, so you're not losing a full season of Satu. But I tend to lean your way. To me, this is a very confusing team where they keep drawing me in, but I think you're really right to pin down, I think it's true in all sports. I actually think it really can be an edge in the futures market in general. Is institutional success and failures actually carry over more in sports than I think people care to admit. Yeah, I think the jokes over on the men's side, oh, Celtics Lakers finals, you bet it every year you're going to make money. Like, but like there's some truth to like these institutional
Winning
like
organization. Yeah.
100%. And there's truth to the flip side of that. The organizations that year after year can't get out of their own way. And whatever it may be, it might be, you know, that the ownership for one team puts a lot of money into, you know, analytical success, or just literally seeing the W lot, like puts money into like the facilities that the team has to go to is a massive thing. Like that is a phenomenal use of money that some teams skimp on, and they really that's something that's not going to show up in a box score. You're seeing talented players go there and maybe not reach potential. That could be a big reason why. So I tend to agree with you. I'm more of I think I stay away from this because, again, there is talent here.
Volatile. Yeah.
It's really volatile. I almost think I wish you could bet like if the books had their stuff together, we could bet like worst record in the league. I almost think you could toss like a really long number, because you're 100% that like it's a volatile franchise. And there's like some volatile players on it, and there's some volatile relationships potentially on it. It's like there's a whole lot of.
Are you talking Alyssa and Deej on the same team?
That's like that could either be amazing or like mid-season we could be like, oh man, they're playing together, huh? Like that's definitely something to you know that is part of the team, you know, relationship.
I mean, we had the Dewana and Alyssa thing, and that seemed to work well. Really we don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think finally the collusion claims can end on this Alyssa and Deej, because they're finally
on the same team. Put those in. I think we can finally put those to rest. So we'll lock in an official under on their 18.5 for you.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting with this team. I just don't, as much like you said, like there's talent to be found here. Arike is unbelievable, but I also wonder, just chemistry wise, we're going to talk about this a lot probably as we go through this conference, because there's so many changes that happen in the off season. Chemistry wise, what is this going to look like? And none of us we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know for sure. But when I look at this, you have Arike Ogunbowale, who some would say, I don't know that I'm in this camp, but would say is like a more selfish player, right? Really high usage, shooting a lot, maybe kind of a lower shooting percentage for that reason, too many turnovers. And then you have a player who's coming in that people like anonymous GMs in the league are saying, Paige Becker's not selfish enough. He needs to be more selfish to be a star.
Yeah.
How is that going to work? What's that going to look like? And maybe it surprises us and it complements really well. I don't think this team is messy to me. It's messy.
It's messy, and there's going to be growing pains. And here's the thing, like, I think it's so easy to look at all these rosters and be like, man, there's a lot of talent here, because there's just so much talent in the league that when it like you like come and look at your over-unders, you're like, I took overs on like 10 of the 13 teams. That's not how it works. You can't really do that. And so I think picking spots where there are question marks is a very good way of approaching it. You've talked to me. I'm going to lean under. I had this as a stay away. I think between you and seeing that one preseason game that I'm definitely not overreacting to, I think that's enough for me to lean under. I definitely will give you better bets on this episode, I think, personally, from my perspective at least. But I'm going to join you on leaning under on the Wings.
It's not a top bet. But I like it, honestly. I don't not like it. I would say it's like upper to middle for me as far as bets. And also, Arike is going to watch this and say, and I took that personally. And just
I know. Honestly, good. Like, that's a great outcome. I would love
to be wrong about this.
Same. Genuinely one of my favorite players in the league. Like, her run at Notre Dame was part of what really got me into the women's side of basketball. Like, that was like some of the most phenomenal stuff I've ever seen. So I would love for her to be dominating. So do you have anything else on the Wings in particular? Or should we move over to the Valkyries?
No, that's messy.
Yeah, messy. Messy. That's the one word preview right there. Okay, let's go over the Valks. So there's not a lot of, 2024 season in review didn't exist. That wasn't the thing that happened. No players in, all players out. They have a new coach, of course, Natalie Nakase, who when I was doing research here, I realized she was a Bruin. You probably knew that, right?
Of course.
Of course. She comes with a great reputation, comes over from the Aces, an assistant. There's two of those that we'll be talking about in these conference previews. My 10-word preview, saying it now, this team wins the title by 2035. What is your 10-word preview?
First of all, I think you can be bolder than that. I think we can do less than 10, Jim.
So I did say I originally said 2030, and I was like, man, that's really soon. Let's say 2032, though. How about that? Is that a fair compromise?
I was thinking 7. When I saw it, I thought 10 is generous. 7 is a little bolder.
7's a nice number. So a lot of people's lucky number. I like it. So we'll say wins a title by 2032. What's your 10-word preview?
Yeah. Welcome to Valhalla. Join the ascent before it's too late.
Dude, you killed. This is this. I won't get giddy about every single one of these, but these are good. This is good work, Danielle.
It's almost like we're trying to be entertaining. Yeah,
It's almost,
the Valk.
almost.
I mean, yeah, Valkyries here. For those who don't know, I mean, like, how cool is it that they call it Valhalla, by the way, because there's the Valhalla reference with the Valkyries. I mean, they killed it with this
Yeah.
marketing, with the team name, how it syncs up with the Warriors. It's just, and we talked again about how they've really invested in. We want this to be a successful franchise, and I mean, their head coach already, you mentioned, has mentioned that their team motto right now is going to be process over results. So I think that speaks even to your bold prediction that
Yeah.
they know that you're starting out in the league, but that doesn't mean we're far off from success.
There's some really talented players coming up in the college system right now. I think
Yeah.
they are very like the core of this team is really fun. The core of this team is basically like every team's like sixth or seventh, like genuinely best, like complementary player. You get like you are terrible for 2 years and get 2-star players, Betts and Juju, who knows what the names
Oh,
are, but those two plus this core of like wings and international shooter, like
mm-hmm.
I genuinely think the future is so bright, and they clearly are. Like to back to the Dallas Wings conversation, they are clearly putting money into this. They are clearly building a fan base. The
Mm-hmm.
fan base, I think, is going to be smart enough to have the patience to be like, oh, like yeah, we're fine losing this year. Like we're in this for like the long haul. This team is like this is our baby now. Like this is a 2032 will be the goal for winning. So to me, when I look at this team, I think this season, this is one of those win totals. It opened 15.5. And it was pretty funny because Dano and I had talked on the podcast about like where we would set the win total. And we had said like easy single digits. Like we'd said like maybe like 6.5, 8.5. I was getting messages from people like, is this as good as it looks? I was like, oh man, can you wait? I have to put this out for content. Don't hit it too hard. But yeah, that opening number was wild. I hope folks got that. It's now down to 9.5. In fact, there's a lot of 8.5s, but you can get a 9.5 in the market.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about Valks, maybe specifically related to this number, but just Valkyries in general, more thoughts on them.
This roster, you said, a little bit of talent, like the sixth best player on a lot of these teams. It was actually fun. I had to explain this to my mother earlier. She was like, well, how do they get the players? And so I was like, oh, they can protect this many and then they can take these ones. So it's kind of a fun roster. And actually, if you look at it, this roster's played more minutes in the WNBA last season than the current rosters for the Connecticut Sun and the Mystics.
Wow.
So like minutes are there. Yeah. And if you look at other teams in their like kind of inaugural season, Atlanta Dream in their inaugural season like went 4-30, and then number 1 draft pick following draft, Angel McCoughtry. Like,
yep,
they're able to do those things. And then the Storm, back-to-back number 1 picks. It was Lauren Jackson, then Sue Bird. Maybe you've heard of her. And then
it was a duo.
Yeah, like right into the first 4 championships in their 5th year of being around. And you're talking about winning a championship in 7 years. The owner, I mean, Warriors owner, but also Valkyries owner, is saying they're going to win in the first 5 years. That's what he said when he bought the Warriors in 2010. And he's saying it again with the Valkyries. And I don't think he's really being bold because he's the owner and he can do that. He's not on a betting show. But yeah, I think 5 to 7 years is very realistic for this team. Again, because I think there's so much buy-in from the fan base, from the organization. And then you're starting with a kind of decent core. By the way, Kate Martin, how fun. Like, going to be so fun to watch her. I think it was so fun to watch her start out her career with the Aces, and now like this feels like a whole new fresh start for her as well. But as far as the win total goes for like a team like this that's in their inaugural season, on average, new teams are usually sitting around winning about 15%. We know that we're getting 4 more games this year than we got last year, so up to 44. So single digit number here. It's under 8.5 for me because 9 wins is like a 20% win percentage in those 44 games. That's above average. Even the Storm in their first year, who were pretty decent, I think winning about 18% of their inaugural season. Now, what I will say is different is I think the talent is different. We're talking about inaugural teams from like a very long time ago, and the talent jump is like substantial.
The league depth is just so much. Yeah. There's so much more talent to pull from. Yeah, go on though.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. So, yeah. So for me, it's like it's a skip. This is the one I would honestly skip the most. I can give you something on all of the others, which like wham. We started with such like lamey ones. I'm like,
we're building. We're building. We promise. I swear. Yeah.
We're building up. We're like the Valkyries. We're building up.
Exactly.
But yeah, 9 wins. 9 wins is a big ask. I was almost thinking if you absolutely had to make a bet, grab under 9.5 if you can still find a 9.5. But otherwise, it's a skip for me. Yeah,
I agree.
And this is like big things coming.
I couldn't agree more on all fronts. The 8.5 does get a little dicey. Like, because honestly, I don't think that this is the worst roster in the league. Like, I think that the Connecticut Sun have a worse roster, and like their best player is asking out of town, and like isn't even playing in the preseason right now. Like,
Yeah.
I think the Valks, and I think they've got a really good coach. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. But I will say, I think they're going to struggle on offense. I think unders might be the play, or like team total unders. Got a lot of raw talent, but especially coming together early, I think it is going to be a little bit of a challenge. But that being said, yeah, I think that the play here is an under. Hopefully you grabbed it earlier, but I still don't hate under 9.5, because I think this team's just really content with like the big picture here of like, we're going to be fun. We're going to like push teams a little bit. We're going to discover a few diamonds in the rough. They're going to probably try out a lot of different players this year to like see who really pops. So this is one where they're telling you at the start of the season, like you said, process. We are not looking at the win column. And so if a team's not looking at the win column, we will be looking towards the under on their season win total, even though it has dropped significantly.
And also, in addition to that, we talk about the Valkyries and what they decided, because they're very much a team with a blank slate. What's our identity going to be? And coaches talked about, we wanted high caliber, high IQ players. We wanted high caliber people on our team. That's very like fits with the Warrior brand as well. I mean, the Steph Curry image is very squeaky clean. And with that in mind, like, I'd be more scared of this Valkyries team if they looked like the Phoenix Mercury's roster. Like, this is not a scary Valkyries team to me yet. This is like a baby Valkyries team. And again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they just come out with like fire.
I mean, that would be really fun. That would be an absolute blast. If they get it done, I don't think it's their focus, so I don't think it's going to be what happens. So let's move over to a team that has, if you're building a championship core, mentality, you want to be looking at the Las Vegas Aces. Last year, they were 27-13, and they did lose in the semis. So they were going for their three-peat. They won it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and then last year they lost in the semifinals to the eventual champion, Liberty. They lost, that has become a rivalry. Now, there is another team that we'll talk about later that has kind of popped its head into this rivalry, but this is a team that they have the bona fides. They have a very similar roster, but with a notable change. Jewel Lloyd is now in that kind of two-guard spot instead of Kelsey Plum. So Kelsey Plum, she wanted her own team. We'll talk about her next, actually. She's actually next up on this. She wanted her own team. And I think it's going to be really fun. And now Jewel Lloyd is in, and I'm not sure about the fit. So let's do the 10-word previews here. My 10-word preview: did we get those Aces legs enough of a rest? I think that will be a big thing, but we'll get to that. What is your 10-word preview for the Aces?
Point guard is back, but why is the Plum gone?
Why is the Plum gone? Yeah, the point guard does look incredibly back. So that was the lead. That was literally my first line as well. And it ties into what I said. Are those legs back? Chelsea looked incredible and unrivaled. Now, Chelsea is a player who is probably on my personal Mount Rushmore of favorite players to watch of all time. So even though I am a Liberty fan, and she, her destruction of the Liberty in the previous finals was like the most painful experience ever, I absolutely love to see Chelsea Gray playing back. She is just an absolute joy on the court. So I really hope she is, for the league, for fans, for her. I do want to see it, though, because Unrivaled 3-on-3 is a lot different than a full length court, WNBA 5-on-5. And it's more off-season work on those legs that we hope are resting up. Now, A'ja Wilson did have the off-season, but Jackie Young looked a little dinged up in Unrivaled. And, and Jewel Lloyd missed a little bit of time. So there are questions of, it's just hard to be a dynasty. It's hard to win title after title, and then you become the Olympic team, and then there's a lot that goes with winning year after year after year. So do you think Chelsea is back, like for sure back, or do you have some questions about tired legs and if we've seen the best of the Aces?
I think she looks really good. And what was your 10-word for the Dallas Wings? The only ways to go is up, right? Yeah. Like the Aces, when you are at the top, the only place to go, right? So it's tough when we say like, oh, they've made these regressions in these areas, or maybe these are kind of dings to the Aces. It's still such a high caliber team. That's why you're seeing such a high win total still. This is still a top of the league team. A'ja Wilson, like, just getting better, apparently, like in her prime, coming off a record-breaking season, like nothing shy there. And also stepped up in an area where, again, like maybe we didn't see as much Jackie Young like production as we wanted to see last year. And even Kelsey Plum struggled a little bit last year. So Asia just stepping up and filling in those areas. And again, I think sometimes I look above even like the rosters and I go, what's the management look like? Mark Davis cares about winning. And
Yes.
furthermore, Becky is one of the best coaches in the league. So I think that's like a cheat code for some of these teams as well. A lot of the teams we're talking about today have brand new coaches. Some who have literally not coached like women's basketball or like, I mean, we're, that we'll talk about before they started coaching the W. So yeah, adding Jewell Loyd from Seattle, been on a downward trajectory with her general offense. Is that because there's drama in Seattle? We haven't gotten to Seattle yet, but maybe a new team, fresh start, desert air is going to put her right. But I thought that the Aces lost in this trade, picking up Jewell Loyd and sending Kelsey away.
Yeah, I think that's a key pivot here. Let's pause on that for a second because I feel very much the same. And I have heard some folks that there are definitely two schools of thought in this. There are some folks that think that Jewell is actually, potentially a higher ceiling player. I'm with you, and a lot of people whose opinions I really respect and like are even like Owen Pence out there, who is a diehard Aces fan and might be a little reluctant to be like, I'm skeptical of what they did. Was like, yeah, I'm a little skeptical of this move. He's a Jewell Loyd fan too, so it's like a 2 for 2.
Oh yeah,
it just seems like it's maybe like Kelsey fit that system so perfectly, and Jewell, for as outstanding a player as she has been, definitely, at least in recent seasons, has not looked at quite the same level. And that's not to say that level isn't still in there, and it's not to say she can't be a good fit. She was a great fit on a title wing team, but I do think that overall, I'm not as high on their ceiling as maybe some others out there. I think their floor is as high as any top tier team, maybe even a higher floor than a Liberty, to be perfectly honest, because A'ja Wilson is just going to float you to 25 wins on her own. She's that good. Yeah. But I do have a lot of questions about the rest of that team. So it sounds like you are very much on the same page of the Jewell Loyd trade maybe not being a perfect fit in your mind.
Yes. That said, I would still look over on this play.
Yeah.
29.5. I mean, and you're getting 4 extra games this year. I trust Becky with those final moments, and even a game that maybe they were going to have to be a little bit scrappier. Like, this is a team that's veteran enough and talented enough that I believe can kind of dig those out. And like you said, like Jewell Loyd fans here, we're just not sure about the fit. And I talked at the top of the show, like so many of these teams are about chemistry, because I feel like this keeps happening every year now, Jim. Like the W is blowing up, the teams are expanding, the players are going everywhere. We're pulling coaches from the NCAA. Like, it's just been chaos. And so every season we're like, what are we getting? What team is this? Like, who's on the Connecticut Sun this year? So it's really like, and Diana Taurasi retires, and we get like such big bombs every year now, which is great. It's just kind of representative of what the growth in the league so far. But it's really hard when we're like chemistry. And it's like, that's why I'm like, ooh, I think this was like a chemistry like minus for them to lose Kelsey here.
Yeah, because one of the biggest things about, because I think you made a great point on, like, from the ownership down, Mark Davis to Becky, like that is some of the best ownership, coaching, institutional. That's the catchphrase of the podcast here today. This episode is like that kind of institutional direction of your franchise is so high. They have such a high floor there. A'ja Wilson remains the best player, even though, Fee is, we'll get to Fee. She wants to reach that level. A'ja, I think, is still the best player in the league. And I'm with you. I'm over 29.5 as well. I wouldn't say it's like my best bet. This one also moved up a little bit from 27.5. Really love that. 29.5. I like that. I still do. Last year they had the Pythag of a 29 win team, and like you said, we get 4 more games, and theoretically maybe a healthier Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young. So I do think there's a lot to like.
Started so rough. Yeah.
So 100%. Yeah. All right, let's move along to your hometown squad, the Los Angeles Sparks. They finished with the worst record in the league last year. It's kind of surprising. Again, these rosters have talent. It's really hard to, when you only have 12 teams last year, someone's going to have to lose some games. So they lost 32 games. This was kind of a transition year for them anyways. They knew it. NECA and Jordan Kanda were out. They brought in Kurt Miller, who only lasted a year actually, but they brought in with him Rakia Jackson, Cameron Brink, kind of the future, right? This is the next young core that we have. They kind of, I think how I saw it is they're moving from like, the middle of the treadmill to like the back of it. And they're like, let's start moving our way back up, building through Cam and Rakia. And I think the first season would have to be considered a success. I thought Cameron Brink looked outstanding when she was on the court. Rakia Jackson was amazing in the second half. Now they're getting Kelsey Plum, and they really didn't lose a whole lot in terms of like notable players. They have the Erica Hamby back, and they have a really intriguing core now. They also have a new coach. They've got Lynn Roberts, who's really fast-paced threes. We've talked about her on a lot of these episodes so far. She's one I'm really excited to get to see in person. I'm going to let you lead with the 10-word preview because this is your hometown squad. It's only fair that you go first. So why don't you give your 10-word preview?
First of all, I've adopted LA. My hometown, now I have a hometown squad. It's the Valkyries. I'm from the Bay Area.
Okay.
So
that is fair, but you were literally emceeing for them last year.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
I was like,
yes,
you have a connection to them.
No, yes, absolutely. Like this is my local, my adopted team. But now, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have a Bay Area team, and we were talking about point guard, and Chelsea Gray is like, we don't get a lot of great WNBA players from the Bay Area, and she is. So I would love to see like that link up later.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk Los Angeles Sparks. Did you have your 10-word preview? Did you give it to us?
You go first. I'm giving you. Okay. You get to bat lead off for your semi hometown.
Okay, adopted. I put young, fun, plum, but not quite ready to run yet.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, maybe lead. I'll give my 10-word real quick and then go to that yet, because I think the yet's the most interesting there. I see what you did. So mine is, I see the long-term vision. How far out is it? We're very aligned. Again, there is a lot of intrigue here. Yeah. Yet. So talk to me about yet. What are you seeing with this Sparks team, either this season or kind of looking ahead?
I'm gonna make a bad book like metaphor here, but the Sparks are catching fire. It was like a little Hunger Games last year, a little dystopian last year.
That's a nice like 2012 poll. That is not what I expected to hear in 2020. When you said book,
dating myself. Yes. Sparks are catching fire now, though. I think that they've made some good decisions, but we're not there yet to see it like fully come your way. Like you said, I mean, they parted with Kurt Miller after one season. So again, you're making these little like jumps on these lily pads to get closer to this thing. I don't know if we've arrived yet. And like you said, they didn't lose a whole lot here. Also, name we didn't mention maybe yet, Dearica Hamby, has been so, like, the renaissance has been so fun after her second child. There was obviously like legal things going on as well and things in the league, but she's just been so fun to watch, like just re-energized, like came back with such a vengeance. I love a revenge story, a revenge angle, especially as a better. And so having her there, Kelsey Plum, also former teammate with Dearica in Vegas.
Those Aces Sparks games are going to be spicy, lit, to say the least. Yeah.
I know. I have to reach out and ask for tickets now.
Yes.
Cameron Brink back. I mean, you were talking about Cameron Brink, how good she looked at the start of that season. And I know that like last season, so many people, we were talking about like, is there a rookie of the year who can beat, Caitlin Clark? And for me, it was like, I think Cam Brink, and the value was better on her. Not a lot better, but better. Yeah. And so it was really heartbreaking to see her go down, because it was like, we felt like you were watching something very special. That said, I mean, I'm pretty sure that but back in March, like very recently, she was saying, I'm just finally starting to do jumping, running, cutting slightly. That was on a podcast in March. That's not even 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's why when we say yet, it's like, man, this lineup is going to be it, but it's not it yet, because we need Cam Brink healthy. It's such a big piece. Kelsey Plum needs to assimilate. She's good at doing that. She'll be fine. Like you said, maybe like though kind of not so like special year last year for her. So maybe there's, and honestly, like the preseason games still kind of look that way. Rakia Jackson though, like so fun the back half of the season. I think with this like new kind of coaching, she's really going to flourish. So growth coming.
100%. This is a team, I already made my bold, a team to win a title in the next 7 years, but I like legit think that this core of Plum, Rakia, Hamby, and Cam fits so well, but Cam is very essential to it. I do think, I think she is maybe the most pivotal piece, because, Rakia is a solid wing defender. They're not going to have a ton of backcourt defense. And Hamby's a very strong defender, but Cameron can just do so much to open up space on both ends. We saw her shooting threes before her injury as well. So I really think that she is a pretty pivotal piece. All that being said, I do lean towards the over here. So we're getting 44 teams. The over-under's at 20.5. So you can be under 500 and clear this. I think this team's going to be right around that spot. I mean, these numbers have kind of shaped to around what we were talking about this before the podcast. Like, a lot of these are pretty close to where I'd make them at this point. We had some crazy openers, but this isn't a terrible line. I'd lean over. I know Dano, we don't have Dano on the show today. Dano is all about the Sparks this year. So that in and of itself has me a little bit intrigued. I do think there's a lot here. I think Kelsey's going to have like a borderline MVP season. I think she's going to have the stats that are like at that near level, because I think Lynn's going to let her just go. I think she's going to chuck threes. think she's going to be really good. And I think it's going to be a fun team at worst. And I think there are some wins to get between the Valks and the Sun. And this is the type of team that I think will take advantage of those wins to be had, and then be competitive enough with some of those better teams that they can win a couple high variance games with the threes they're shooting, take a game off the Aces, take a game off the Liberty, something like that. So I lean towards the over here. What are your thoughts on the Sparks here?
I think it's going to be very critical to see how the new coaching change comes in and works, because I know some people are concerned about, is this going to translate on the W level coming from a college coach? I don't think it's a bad strategy. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it comes to fruition with this lineup. And like we just said, like, this team is not ready yet. For me, this is an underbaked cake. It's still a cake. You could take it out, you could eat it. It would be good. It would be cake, but it's not done yet. There's no frosting. So like, let's let it finish baking. And for me, this is like lean under 20.5. So this is like the one I think that I was like kind of opposite on you. And I'm really sad to find out the opposite with Dano, but I see the ceiling. I see the possibility with this team. I think it's going to look clunky. And I think that the only thing that's going to change that is like if this coach comes in and they really buy in and it just looks like a completely different team. But like, their offense was truly horrendous to watch at times last year, like truly horrendous to watch. And like you said, like, didn't lose a whole lot and added a Kelsey Plum. So like, she's going to, I could see her having maybe a similar season. We're talking about Clea Copper earlier, having such a phenomenal season last year, but on kind of an underperforming Mercury. Yeah. I could see something like that. But like you said, this is just getting above 500. I mean, I think last year, like 5 or 6 teams were able to do that. So it's, we get more games this year. This is, so.
Well, and you're right.
For me, it's under.
I mean, honestly, I do think it's totally fair. And you going under took me from like a hard over to a lean over, because I do think the way you laid it out, I do think there are questions. I think it's so easy to get caught up in like this system's going to work, but there are questions about it. And like we got to see it. like the concept of these, of like her or Carl Schmesko in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get caught up in like the theoretical of what could work, but like, for every like coach that sticks, there's like a dozen that don't stick, and and systems that seem awesome, and in the off season we read about them and get really hyped on them, and then you remember that team was 8-32 last year, and they really only added Kelsey Plum. Now I think we'll get a little bit more semblance of like Odyssey Sims is back for a second season. I think she'll be like a pretty useful piece. Julia Aleman is theoretically playing, although I don't know if she showed up yet, but she's theoretically playing as like a solid guard there as well. So I think it's actually the way you framed it has helped me reframe it a little bit in my mind and come down on the Sparks a little bit, because I do think it's fair to point out, like, you took an 8-win team and you added a Kelsey Plum. Like, it's a pretty big jump to get up to the even if you have 4 more games to get into that level. So I do think the coaching matters, but like, if they start off really slow, are they going to rush Cam Brink back just to like grab an 8 seed? That seems like a poor long-term decision. So I think,
and I mean, they'll be trying in theory to win now. Like, they'll be trying, like last year, why not tank at the end? But so that's different with the win total. We talk about like they barely had, single digit wins last year, but that was by design by the end of it, and I don't see it happening. I can't see it getting there. And I think also with a league that got more competitive this year across the board, and we just said it, like, and you added Kelsey Plum, and maybe it's going to be like raining threes in Los Angeles. It's going to be Kelsey Plum, Rickea Jackson, but I think you need Cam Brink back in the mix. So hopefully we get that sooner rather than later.
Agreed. And we'll say Rickea, as high as I am on Rickea, she didn't quite pop in Unrivaled the way that I want. I thought like she might be like a borderline, like, oh, this is the player coming out of Unrivaled. Yeah, she was kind of whatever, and the team was kind of whatever. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Let's move along to the team that lost in the finals to the Liberty, the Minnesota Lynx. We've already referenced Revenge Season Lynx, Revenge Season Fee. So yeah, last year they got about as close to a title as you can possibly get without winning it. Incredible finals. We already did the recap on a previous podcast. You don't need the recap. You have to remember, it was such a good finals. Fee, her ascent into being a clear top 2 player in the league. I think the conversation is closer to, is she the best player in the league right now? What we have seen from her in the last year, it's absolutely incredible. Not much change on the roster. They got Carly Samuelson in. They didn't lose anyone of note. They kept their coach, who might be the greatest coach of all time, certainly in the candidate, in the conversation. So my 10-word preview is angry Fee, GOAT coach, very legit to win it all. Just straightforward. So what is your 10-word preview of the Minnesota Lynx?
Probably pretty similar for you. I prepare for the unmitigated wrath of Nafisa and Cheryl Reeve.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
I don't know how after that finals, they don't come into the season incredibly angry and motivated.
Focused, locked in. I mean, I completely agree. And you talk about not losing this much, and it almost feels like this is like deja vu for this Lynx team. I mean, Cheryl Reeve has talked about this, the 2016 to 2017 jump, where it's like we lose it,
Yep.
and then we win it the next year. And she talks about how we couldn't have won it in 2017 if we didn't have what happened in 2016. And
100%.
You can debate, it doesn't come down to one final play or one final second. It shouldn't come down to something that the refs do, which is the situation they find themselves in again. And so you have to take some accountability there. But I don't care. I love a revenge story. I love the wrath that she feels, and you need to have that chip on your shoulder, and that's going to be really powerful for them. I think they did everything right last season. Like they led in so many categories, and then to not come out with the championship at the end is just like, oh man, that's like a Connecticut Sun thing to do. And it used to be
the casual drive-by. No way, yeah, just the East Coast hate.
Nobody's left there. I shot into an empty building. There's no,
and it's like no facilities either. There's not even anyone working at the facilities, so it's just fully abandoned.
Yeah. I'm gonna quote a Taylor Swift song. Have you heard the song Exile? I think I've seen this film before, but I did like the ending. I'm gonna change it. Yeah, the Lynx felt robbed in 2016. They came back in 2017. They won it. And really what's interesting, I keep talking about chemistry. That's the word that's kind of the tying thread through all of these WNBA teams for me. This is a team where we don't have to worry about chemistry. We know what we're getting. They kept their core intact. They're doing kind of consistency over clamor. I've seen articles talking about were they too quiet? They didn't really make any big moves. At least New York added they replaced Courtney Vandersloot. They did things. I'm kind of into this. I'm not worried about what I'm going to see from this Minnesota Lynx team. We talk about identity. The Valkyrie, maybe the team with the least amount of identity. Honestly, I would put the Wings below them, which is hilarious because Valkyries are a brand new team, and I would say the Wings. I don't know what that.
You definitely are right.
What's the identity of the Wings? We don't know what we're going to get, but the Lynx are the exact opposite end of the spectrum of that. I know exactly what kind of brand of basketball we're going to get out of the Minnesota Lynx. It comes with having a coach who's been there as long as you have, and then just a winning championship level team here. So there's just a winning culture there. And it really, for me, I love a good defensive team, and they led in pretty much every defensive category that you would care about. Opponent points per scoring attempt. I mean, assist rate even, fourth in points, opponent turnover rate. So there were so many things that you can point to and just be like, they're playing basketball correctly. And it's fun to watch. And so I think that staying consistent in their lineup is going to be a good thing for them. I think that everybody made these splashy moves, and I think they're kind of just biding their time. Okay, let's see how these splashy moves pay out, and your new coaches and your new players, and we're going to just run it back.
Yeah, 100%. And the playing basketball correctly comes to what I think the if you're going to argue the case against the Lynx, I've talked about this on previous podcasts. The case is the shooting regression on both ends. They led the league in 3-point shooting, and they led the league in a 3-point field goal percentage against as well. So the natural thing there is to say, oh, they're going to regress a little bit on both ends. They if you look at the roster, they don't have the best shooting in the league, and their defense. But I don't buy that. I think that they are playing a really good scheme with a phenomenal coach who is very in touch with this roster. Like a coach in a roster can really click in a way they're incredibly complementary. We see it across sports. And I think that this team is perfectly schemed, especially on the defense. I almost think on the defensive end, even more than on the offensive end. I think those numbers really will stick, and they'll run back a defense that is top 2 or 3 in 3-point field goal percentage allowed. And then on the other end, as long as Kayla McBride is healthy, I mean, I love nothing more in a player who jumps a level at 30, and Kayla McBride has done that. She has become, in my mind, one of the best two-way players in league. And it's almost like you see the player hold themselves differently. Unrivaled, she kind of held herself I'm a top 10 to 15 player in the world now. That's incredible. And you really see it on her. I think that is going to translate to this season. I think it's easy to say, all these, the other teams have the superstars, the super teams. You got Asia, Chelsea, Jackie, and Jewel. You've got Brianna Stewart, Jonquil Jones, Sabrina Ionesco. Minnesota has Fee, who's great, but who else? I think Kayla McBride is up at that level. I really do think that she is that talented of a two-way player. So I'm all aboard the Lynx train. got a win total right now of 29.5. I like the over. I mean, they cleared that last year in 4 less games. They're running back the same roster. They're adding Carly Samuelson, who's great depth. And if you're worried about a little shooting regression, she's going to help on that front for sure. I think that the regression is the only case here against them. They did jump from was it like 14 wins the year before or something? They had a bad year, but there were a lot of circumstances. Fee missed a good chunk of that season. They totally turned over the roster. So I don't think that using that as a starting point to then say, oh, they jumped by too much, they're going to regress back. I don't see it. So I like the over. Or do you have any thoughts on this total in particular?
Yeah, you know who else is shooting regresses? Teams that play the Lynx. So
it's very true.
So like that's not going anywhere. Even if you're like, oh, well, they shot so well last year. Like even if that pulls back, I know what brand of basketball I'm getting from this team. It's these players that are running it back. It's the same coach, the same franchise. Like you said, last year they won a franchise record, by the way, 30 games, and that was in a 40-game season. We get 4 more games this year. That's 2 more than they won during their previous finals runner-up season in 2016, and 3 more than their championship seasons in 2011 and 2017. So again, like numbers that are going in the right direction. 4 extra games this year. Expansion season year, we tend to see more wins than that as well. And I think you brought this up before, but the only area of weakness maybe for this team, and even if you look at the stats, it was rebounding. It's the post. You're talking about staying healthy. They don't have a ton of post depth, so maybe that's an area of weakness. And when Nafisa doesn't play, like that's a nightmare. Like when you're a bettor and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was like critical. It's critical to the analysis, critical to the spread. It's like one of the I mean, is there a player besides Asia and Fee that, I mean, Brianna Stewart? I don't even know. I don't think Bri moves the point spread as much as like an Asia or a Fee do.
I think because of the rest of the roster, and even though I just said the rest of this roster is as good as the Aces, I do wonder if Fee would be the single most impactful on a spread. Like I'm trying to think who else would even be up there.
I mean, they play it like a team sport, so they need all of them to be clicking on all cylinders together. Yes. That doesn't mean that she has the most talented roster, even though there's talent there. I'm excited to see Dorka again. I think that's gonna sneaky fun person to have on your fantasy team.
Oh yeah, we haven't given a fantasy shout yet. Actually, we got to we got to shout out. We got to do a fantasy draft at some point. All right, yeah. Let's go over to the Phoenix Mercury now. So this is a team that is probably more turned over than any other roster in the W in this offseason. Last year they were 19-21. This was the debut of Girl Dad Coach. We saw season 1 of Girl Dad Coach. They won 19 games, but they seemed to get a little lucky there. If you go by Pythag, they were maybe a little bit worse. But then if you look at the roster, there was talent there. Again, we keep coming back to saying that. It seemed like the roster didn't really fit the vision. However, in the offseason, I think they got a roster that fit the vision a little closer. So they brought in Alyssa Thomas, Satu Savali, Sammy Whitcomb, and there's even some rumors out there right now of Emma Miesemann potentially being a fit for this team.
That would be fun.
Outgoing, though, was Brittany Griner, Natasha Cloud, Sophie Cunningham, Diana Taurasi, Beck Allen. This team has entirely turned over. They have the same coach, one of the few teams with the same coach. But my 10-word preview is big names up top. Can the lack of depth survive? So we'll get into that. But what is your 10-word preview for the Phoenix Mercury?
I'm using like initials as one word.
Okay.
Just to be clear with the rules. Mine is Mercury's in retrograde with the big 3 featuring big KFC.
Oh, well, okay. We got to circle back to the golf claps because that was on par with the early ones. That was an excellent one. So,
well, okay. So, Jim, can I ask you, are you a big astrology guy?
I was literally going to say I've heard the term Mercury's in retrograde. I think
I'm ready.
Chaos.
I'd love to explain it. Please let me just bleed the listeners.
Go off right now.
Okay, it's gonna make sense. Follow me here. Mercury in retrograde, right? It's an astrological event. I've already lost some people, but where Mercury, the planet associated with communication, appears to move backwards in the sky away from our perspective on Earth. So it looks like it's moving away from us.
Okay.
It's not an actual physical change in the Mercury's orbit. It's an optical illusion caused by the Earth and Mercury's movements. Yeah. So Mercury in retrograde, it can cause like miscommunication, frustration. And I think that's what this team will do. I think they're going to frustrate other teams. I think that they're going to be Mercury in retrograde. They're going to be so frustrating for other teams, especially in the Western Conference, because they kind of do this thing where they play up or play down to their teams. That's what they've done historically. Obviously, we have a different roster here. They're building a new thing. That said, retrograde usually lasts like 3 weeks. So, Jim, you mentioned their lack of depth. They're going to struggle with their depth this season. They're also going to frustrate the hell out of some teams, which is what Mercury in retrograde does. So,
damn, you got levels. This you're cramming in like novels into these 10 sentence previews. This is incredible. I only shouldn't have done this because you like showed me up. So like you just came in and just you just like posterized.
There's somebody out there like, oh, this astrology girl, and I'm like, if you don't like astrology, just say you're not fun and let's move on. Like,
I don't understand it, but I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. Yeah, there's a lot to pick apart in what you just said. I think there's a lot going on here. I think that they are like, I'm going to start with the depth because I'm going to start with the end of it because I think you are right to highlight, Mercury's in retrograde for 3 weeks. If this team stays healthy, the ceiling here is incredible. It's really a fun fit of KFC, AT, your initials gang there, and then Satu Sabali, I talent-wise could be like a top 3 to 5 player in the league. She does absolutely everything. Defense, offense, scores at all 3 levels, the exact kind of like height and wingspan and speed and strength that you want from a best player in the league.
Yeah.
We haven't fully seen everything come together more than like a couple month stretches here and there. But this might be the team to be able to do it. Now, the shot's going to have to be there because Kalia Copper is a solid shooter, but she loves to drive to the basket. Alyssa Thomas isn't taking shots from further than 3 feet away from the basket. Whoever their starting center is, if they go Kalani Brown or Natasha Mack, isn't going to really be spreading folks out all that much.
No.
Point guard is a question for them. Do they even start a point guard? Maybe they go with yeah, right. Like what direction do they go? They have a lot of interesting ways to attack this. Girl Dad Coach, I actually think is going to be a really good fit with this, like kind of a spread offense. I love it so much. I feel bad. At some point, I'll stop saying it, but I do love it so much.
You love a faux pas.
Exactly. 3-point, like I just wrote this down. 3-point shooting. Alyssa Thomas just doesn't. Copper shot 31% last season. Satu's at 33% for her career. I'm cherry picking a little bit because Satu shot really well last season, and Copper for her career is better. But there is a way that this doesn't work. So I think this is, naturally the team that has the most turnover is the one you have the most questions about. But I think even more so because of the fit, there's like even more questions than a normal one. Like say, so I'm going to think of an example of a full team that turned over recently, but sometimes you see the vision right away and you're like, oh, this all fits together. This one's like, no, but there's an insane amount of talent that I think could fit. So I think there's a lot of questions here. Their over under is 24.5. That's pretty high, honestly. That, again, this was a team whose Pythag was 15 last year. Referencing last year's record for them isn't really all that relevant. What I'm more worried about is the depth. If they suffer, 1 or 2 key injuries, and listen, Satu Sabali, as great as she is, has struggled at times with injuries. Alyssa Thomas has been durable for the last couple of seasons, but she's got no shoulders or whatever. I don't remember exactly the medical thing.
Without shoulders, you guys.
She's got no shoulders. She's got something going on up there, no cartilage up there. There are some questions, and if it goes wrong, I could see it going really wrong, to be honest. But I'm hesitant to overall be down on this team because the talent level is so high.
Yeah, this has got wings messiness, but the reason I'm not as scared about it is like we talk about this lineup. If I see Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabali, and Kalia Copper, I'm scared. Like that's a scary big 3. Like
it really is.
Gritty, scary, and I feel like that so fits the Mercury's identity. Like this team is like the scariest one in the league. Like Diana Taurasi was the scariest player in the league, and she retired, and they're like carrying her legacy on with this scary 100%. Team. And with that, by the way, listen, we love Di, okay? And I wish she didn't retire, but she did. And I'm just excited because she would mess with the total so much. Like, does Diana want to shoot tonight or does she not want to shoot tonight?
God,
like, Mercury turn the ball over. They don't really play defense. And they play really fast. So we can look to an over. Oh, Diana doesn't want to shoot tonight, or she's going to play a bunch of minutes but not shoot. So that's going to help the handicapping on the totals quite a bit. Brittany Griner gone as well. And that was a will she, won't she play all season. 3 players returning from last year's roster. That's why you're saying like that we can't compare it to last season. We don't know. No picks in the 2025 WNBA draft. Do you know like how dangerous that makes them too? It's like they're just not going to care. Satu, you talked about health. Previous 5 seasons, she's missed more than 17 games in every season of the last 5 except for 2024. So it's really hard to rely on a player like that, even when you have like this like unicorn type of player. So uh, I think that they're going to frustrate a lot of teams. This is going to be a fun team to bet on game by game, but season long, it's really tough to do anything but an under, especially on a number at 24.5.
Yeah, that's actually a great point about the draft pick, because that is really a smart thing to be looking at in these futures markets, is motivation for the team. I was like eyeing a bet on this team to miss the playoffs. You can get them to miss the playoffs plus 360. Again, with when there's more unknowns, I like a longer number. But if this is a team that has no motivation to crash and burn to miss the playoffs, we know 8 of the 13 teams are making the playoffs. It isn't that high of a bar. Isn't, more than half the league is making the playoffs. If you don't have your pick, there's really no motivation for them to crash and burn. And there's, a couple teams down there at the bottom, but I think we'll filter a couple more. Like Dallas will be down there, maybe Washington. Suddenly you only have one slot to miss the postseason. So I don't hate that miss the playoffs at plus 360, just because I do think there are paths towards injuries or weirdness or the system not working that does see them miss the playoffs. But that's more of a lean for me. I do think the under is the way I'd approach it. But do you have any bets on this Phoenix team in particular?
I would lean under 24.5 for this. I love your to miss the playoffs bet here at plus 360, because it's not the juiciest bet, but it's way more value than betting an under on this team that might surprise us.
Yes.
And the only thing is loaded Western Conference. That said, I'm very excited. And again, maybe this parallels the Wings in some ways. I think, again, there's some key differences for me. One of them being like the talent level on this team versus the Wings, and the veteran presence on this team. And one of those being Alyssa Thomas. I can't wait to see AT in a totally different lineup. She comes from a Connecticut team known for slow pace, stalwart defense, and comes to a Phoenix team that's like, we're trying to play as fast as possible and defense is optional.
Yeah.
And obviously they're trying to incorporate that more. But I'm interested to see what AT looks like in that kind of setting. I also think the no Natasha Cloud is going, like, to direct traffic here is going to be a bigger issue than we realize, and you've lost DT. So
yeah, I think there are a fair amount of questions about this team. Let's move to a team that I have fewer questions about. It is once again the team that I am super high on. It is the Seattle Storm. So last year they were 25-15. Their Pythagorean was 27-13. They lost to the Aces in round 1. The vibes were a little off, though, and it cost me on my bet. The vibes were a little weird, I think, because I think that roster really is in kind of the upper echelon. It's not being treated as such in the market. I think because they're kind of a sleeping giant here. Again, if you look at, they're losing Jewel Lloyd, but they've got Lexi Brown and the number 2 pick who turned into Dominique Malanga. This is a team that talent-wise is really high. They're bringing back their coach, one of the few teams that has the coach come back in Noel Quinn. My 10-word preview, we're doing this again. Oh, we're definitely doing this again. So I am on the Seattle Storm. I'm giving away which way I'm leaning. Are you with me, or are you a little more skeptical of this Storm team?
I think this total is too low, which makes it sound like I'm high on the Storm, but I don't think I'm not high on the Storm. I just think that the total seems a little bit inaccurate for me. So for me, I actually like the over here as well, not because I'm super high on what the Storm are bringing to the table. My 10-word preview is veteran winners on the rise with some ooh la la, because they have some very fun French players. They have veteran
off on the 10-word preview. Really just brought the A+ game, Danielle.
I love a game, Jim. Alicia Clark, 3 championships, 2 with the Storm, then the Aces. NECA, 1 with the Sparks. Ezzy, 1 with the Storm. Then you have Gabby Williams and Dominique Salonga, who I believe are both French. So that is the ooh la la in this recipe. I do think it's comical, though, that like when Skylar Diggins, Chop the Smith, chose Seattle, she said, I want to play with Jewel. And Jewel is gone. Jewel is nowhere to be seen.
And I think that Skylar may have had a role in that.
Weird. Didn't age well. Yeah. But I do think we've talked about Unrivaled a lot throughout this. And I think it was such a nice preview to see if some of these players, maybe we thought some underperformed, maybe like, oh, we wanted more from Rakia. And then, wow, Chelsea looks great. And a lot of the players are talking about what it did for their confidence. I mean, you're talking about Kayla McBride. Like, that was probably huge for her. Fee said that she's feeling a lot more ready because of that. They're all really talking it up. And I mean, Skylar as well. She's like, great time at Unrivaled. Think it really got her prepared. A little bit of shade. She's like, this is definitely the most talented roster I've been a part of in my 13 years.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
She's
not holding back at all.
Drama. So with that, I don't like dramatic teams. That's what I mean. The Lynx seem like, as much as Cheryl Reeve like will sit and like
oh, we got robbed, and like people don't like that. Like they're pretty low drama. Like Fee is like they're very team first or this, and like I think this is gonna be dramatic again. I don't know how this is gonna go for
Are you
them,
just
but I
fear
am
tapping the
very.
French and saying that the French are dramatic?
It's a French. They have a flair for the dramatic. Yes, and
Exactly. Although I think
there's
Gabby Williams is like the least dramatic human,
I
like I
know
feel like
that's
of
true.
all time.
Gabby, we don't want to rope you into this. But she, and also exciting, going to be at training camp, going to
Yep.
be at the start of the season instead of joining late. That's big for Gabby. And then I'm really excited to see Dominique because they said when she came to practice for the first time, she dunked and it
Yeah.
got the team like really excited. And it made me look up like some dunking things. I was like, how many people are dunking? And really, there's been like less than 30 in the W, and there's only one player. It's Brittany Griner who's dunked more than twice.
Yeah.
So, and like, let her dunk. Let
She-
her dunk.
She was doing it like with ease. Like the ease with which she was doing it was incredible. I think we'll definitely get at least one or two Malanga dunks this season.
I hope it's a
Absolutely.
poster though. We all want to see it. Like,
We
come
really
on.
do. Who's the first W player to get posterized?
Yeah, that's Rakia's worried about it. So, and of course, Sydney just stirring the pot there. Sydney Colson, always quick with the Twitter hands. But yeah, I can't wait to see that. I think that's gonna be really exciting. But
Yeah, that should be really cool. And
what's in the water in Seattle though? These ACLs out of control.
So that is a very legitimate worry. I'm going to start with, from my perspective, the pros to this team. So if we look at their win shares last year, it was NECA at the top at 6.4. It was Ezzy in second, 5.4. It was Skylar third at 4.3. Then if you prorate Gabby Williams over a full season, she cleared 4. And then Jewel. So Jewel was really not, she was
not a factor.
Not a huge factor, and like potentially, and this is not to put it on Jewel because from what I've read, maybe it really wasn't on her, but the chemistry wasn't there. Well, that's well said. The chemistry wasn't there. So now she is no longer there. We get a full season of Gabby Williams. We get Dominique Malanga, potentially posterizing folks in the paint. The question though is after those, like kind of after that core of Seattle, I was intrigued by the depth, and then they all started to kind of fall off one by one. So Nika Mule tore her ACL. Then we had Carly Lou Samuelson, and I forget we have a third one,
Jordan Hurston,
of course, who really looked notably improved last season in her second year. I really thought that she made a jump on the offensive end that kind of came up to the defense that we saw even in the rookie year. So those are 3 injuries. They're going to be playing basically 10 deep because they can't get the hardship contract if you have 10. So they're playing 10 deep right now. Now, I am intrigued by Lexi Brown. Lexi Brown is someone who had a kind of a breakout and then had to deal with some health stuff, but is supposedly back from that, looking good. So I think that's going to be a pretty key addition. But there is a little bit to worry about. But overall, I'm very high on this team. I think that this team, again, this is not to crap on Jewel. It just kind of was addition by subtraction for this team. I think that it's a much better fit with the roster as is, and maybe even slotting Lexi Brown, a not as talented player, but who is maybe a better fit in the locker room. Then add the upside of a Dominique Malanga. I'm all in. You said the number does seem just low. Like they were the team that popped right off the bat of like,
seems like the market is like too high on the Mercury, maybe in my opinion, and then too low on the Storm. And maybe that's like, these are the teams that are kind of next to each other in the market. So it makes sense that maybe one's going to go above the other.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. Did you see that they opened this at 20.5, by the way? This has been bet up to 23.5.
Disrespectful.
Insanely disrespectful.
Someone tell Skylar.
That has come up to 23.5, and it is literally still my favorite bet of this podcast, of the overs. I love them. To make the playoffs, they were like minus 110 to start. Now it's like minus 600.
The most inappropriate number that we've seen.
It is.
I'm not super high on the Storm, but I'm just like, 24 wins in a 44 season. This is a team that's going to be like, this is a team we're talking about the top 3 teams. We're talking Lynx, we're talking Aces, we're talking Liberty. And then who are we talking about? Like, it might be the Storm in that mix, so
100%. I think you said it well. And like sometimes when you're betting and like a number smells weird, there's like reason to be scared. I don't think so here. The WNBA futures market, I don't think is, one to worry when we've already seen it come up. I think it is my favorite of the episode. So with that, actually, do you want to highlight the one that is maybe your favorite for the episode, and then we'll get you out of here?
Oof. I think it's the Lynx over for me, 29.5. This is a close second, and I don't mind that Wings under, honestly. That's like probably in the top 5 for me as well, as far as these totals go. And fun fact, do you know, I had to mention this because Alicia Clark, do you know she's now the oldest active player
She's 37. Yeah, the oldest active player, which
They have
is
the grandma. So they're very much like a veteran team. And again, when we talk about like winning, especially like playoff type winning, then yeah, I want the veteran players on the team. And now they got the Grammy in the league. They got the grandma.
Grandma Clark leading the Storm to hopefully at least 24 wins to get us that over. So Danielle, thanks so much for coming on. This is a blast. We're hope to have you on a couple times this year at least. So we can do maybe some check-ins throughout the year. But thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple upcoming episodes. We've got the Eastern Conference coming on Tuesday. We're going to have that out for you. Then opening night, we're going to have a preview of opening night. I already mentioned that we have Kayla Dos Santos for the East preview. We got Brian Fonseca for opening night. But yeah, download the app. Make sure you're getting those picks in there. Check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you very much to David Payne, patient this episode, as always with me. He's really the best. Thank you, Gifford Gould, YouTube team. And for now, let's get buckets.